About the case of Shiloh Hendrix, who's raised about $1 million from racists who sympathise with her because she called a black child the N-word in a park. And I want to talk specifically about this phrase on her fundraising page, "Help me protect my family," because I think this actually unlocks the nature of what racism is. Now, I am absolutely obsessed with understanding racism. I grew up in apartheid South Africa. My grandmother, Anna Pierce, was the first white person to testify in court against the apartheid government. My parents were also involved in anti-apartheid protests. They were tear gassed, harassed by the security police. And as an adult, I have been reading as much as I can to try to understand the nature of racism and why what happened in South Africa, what happens in America, in countries all over the world, continues to happen. And I think what we've got wrong about racism is that we often think of it as a social or a political phenomenon, in other words, something that happens between people, when in fact it is something that originates within people, within an individual. I'll explain what I mean. Psychologist Carl Jung created this diagram to describe the psyche. He divides it into the conscious and the subconscious. So the conscious includes the persona, the ego, those parts of ourselves that we project into the outside world that are all to do with how other people see us, how we want to be seen. And then there's the subconscious, those parts of ourselves that we, of course, aren't even conscious anymore, often because we've pushed them down and repressed them because they are uncomfortable in some way. And at the center of the subconscious is the shadow, those parts of ourselves that are so abhorrent to us that we deny that they even exist. But that doesn't stop the shadow from existing. In fact, what happens if we repress parts of ourselves is that they bubble up in other ways. And one of the ways that they bubble up is through projection. One of the most puzzling parts of apartheid South Africa was the cognitive dissonance that was exhibited by white people. When I'm explaining apartheid to people, I often start by saying it's a myth that black and white people were separate in apartheid. The word might mean apartheid, but actually almost the opposite was true. White people typically had black servants working in their homes. Black people were unusually close. They would look after us as if we were babies in our own homes. They would make our beds, cook our meals. They would be there from morning till night. That's not apartness. That is an unhealthy closeness. So why this unhealthy closeness? Well, if you bear in mind Jung's shadow, what that closeness enabled white people to do was to project all of our shortcomings and all of our flaws onto black people. So, for example, we would accuse black people of being violent, while our own security forces killed about 20,000 black people during the course of apartheid. We would accuse black people of being lazy, but it was black people that we got to dig the mines, to work on the farms, to work in construction, to do all the hardest and most physical labor in the country. I want to ask you a question about the racist for a moment. I want you to put yourself into the mind of the racist. Let's pretend that you actually genuinely do believe that races are created differently, that some races are more intelligent than others, some races have different values from other races, and so on. If a race is less intelligent than your race, why do you have to hate them? I mean, that doesn't explain the hatred, does it? And the reason it doesn't explain the hatred is because, as I think Carl Jung reveals, the hatred comes first and the justification comes later. What's so fascinating about this phrase is, "help me protect my family," is whose family actually needs protection? This is Shiloh Hendrix unable to contend with the fact that her shadow is the fact that she attacks other people's families. That's the reality of her that we've seen. She is somebody who intimidates and frightens small children in public spaces. And so she now, to discharge the discomfort of that, has to project her own shadow onto the black people in her community and pretend that she is at risk when she is actually the perpetrator. Jung says that when we are able to incorporate our shadow into our lives, in other words, to understand our own shadow and to contend with it instead of repressing and denying it, that's when we become a whole and fully actualized human being. People like Shiloh Hendrix and racists in general will never be whole human beings as long as they project their own flaws onto other races and other people. It is up to each of us as individuals to understand who we are and to deal with that and to not try to make our problems into other people's problems.
Welcome back, Find the Dot family. Today we are looking at the story that started on the playing ground but quickly spread across the nation. A single moment, a single word, a single video sparked debate, outrage, fundraising, and reflect. Let's connect the dots on what really happened and, more importantly, what lesson can we take from this?
Hi, my name is Shamarki Umar. I'm the guy who recorded that video of that racist woman that was insulting a 5-year-old child at the park here in Rochester, Minnesota. May I remind you guys, I have a clean criminal record. I've never committed a crime in my life. I am being punished for standing up, speaking up for a child. My address got leaked, my phone got leaked. I'm getting death threats by the minute. I have 4 children, the youngest one on the spectrum. He used to go play outside every day. He can't anymore. So, doing the right thing gets you punished, and doing the wrong thing gets you rewarded. Make that make sense, America.
Rihanna has reacted to the news that a woman was seen saying the word and then raised money for herself. A video filmed at a Minnesota park has gone viral and got huge backlash, crowdfunding, and official investigations. A woman in Minnesota is facing serious criticism after being seen on video using the word during a confrontation at a local playground. In the clip, which has spread quickly across TikTok, she's asked by a man off camera whether she called a kid the word. Instead of denying it, she turns around, repeats the word toward the man, and makes a gesture. The man filming pushes back, asking how taking a toy justifies calling someone that word. The woman responds, "If that's what he's gonna act like." Her behavior in the video has sparked outrage, with many online calling it unacceptable and demanding accountability. Despite the backlash, the woman has launched an online fundraiser claiming her family is in danger and has raised over $390,000. She says she's received bad comments and that people are targeting her a lot online. Her donation page says she's planning to move and needs the money for protection and relocation. Local officials have also stepped in. Rochester Parks and Recreation called the video deeply disturbing and reminded residents to tell people about situations like this. The Rochester Public Safety Team confirmed they're looking into the video, and the city of Rochester issued a public statement saying they're committed to keeping public spaces inclusive and safe for everyone. And now, Rihanna has reacted to the news of the woman was using racial sluts to a child. Underneath an article about it, Rihanna left a comment. In her comment, she wrote, "Disgraceful. A lot of fans are coming to Rihanna's side and agreeing with her and are rallying to share that they agree with her." One fan said, "Honestly, I saw that video and my jaw just dropped. The entitlement and blatant disrespect are just astounding. Her excuse about if that's what he's gonna act like is just so bad." Another fan said, "It's disturbing that this is happening in a public park where people are supposed to feel safe. And the fact that she's profiting from this backlash by claiming victimhood is just sickening. It sends a terrible message." For this video's comment question, why do you think she was able to raise so much money?
Hey, if you've been following the verbal assault of Shiloh Hendrix on an innocent 5-year-old special needs child, and you feel that it is 100% necessary she is convicted of a hate crime, child abuse, verbal assault on a child endangerment, I really want to talk to you. I want to connect with a group that really feels in their heart that this needs to be taken extremely seriously. I spoke today with the Rochester Police Department. The district attorney was already closed, but they said they did their investigation. They wouldn't give me any details, but they want me to call tomorrow to speak to the district attorneys. The reason I want to find out how they're handling the case is because I know a lot of times these things kind of can get swept under the rug, and this is not anything we want to sweep under the rug. I think Shiloh can be a very extremely dangerous woman. I'm concerned frankly for her own child, and I think the Child Protective Services should be notified, because if she can become that violent and abusive, racially abusive, and harass an innocent 5-year-old special need child over nothing. The child did nothing wrong. I mean, just, anyway, I'm upset because I love children, and that, it could have been my child. I could have adopted an African American child. So, I don't know. It's upsetting. And for everything it stands and everything that's wrong with America, I think it's really important that she is convicted. And if she's not, there's no telling, she could open up a child care center and abuse other children, just like we have sex offenders that are registered and we know where they live so we can keep ourselves protected. This woman is dangerous, and I'm praying for her that she has some healing, because obviously she's had her own trauma. For her to act like that, but it doesn't excuse her behavior, and it's not acceptable. It's not, it just needs to be, she needs to be convicted. And so it's reaching out if anybody agrees with me.
Okay, so I haven't talked about this a whole lot, but I have been so bothered by this. When I say I have been disgusted by this, there was this white woman named Shiloh Hendrix who called a black baby the N-word. And then when she was exposed, she went on to raise, I think it's at $1 million now. She has raised $1 million on this crowdfunding page for calling a black kid the N-word, right? I was so bothered by that, and everybody's like, what can we do? What can we do? Y'all know me for cyberbullying people, but that was not going to be enough. So I'm going to tell y'all what I did, okay? I've been thinking, I've been strategizing, I've been doing a little sleuthing, right? So what I thought about as a business owner, what do I want to hit? Do I want to hit her, or do I want to hit the money? So I thought about that. So I started searching and trying to figure out, how can I find this funding source? I'm a business owner, I own a retail store, so I know there is a funding source. There's a pipeline somewhere, right? Give, Send, Go is the platform she uses, but they are not the bank. So I thought, like, we got to find a bank. And most banks are not going to want to be attached to something like that, right? Like most banks, especially payment processors, they will cut that shit off with any type of doubt or controversy. They'll usually just cut it off, right? So what I did, I used to be a web developer, so I know how to code and I know how to read code. So I went and I broke down the code on Give, Send, Go's checkout page line for line, and there were keywords I wanted to look for, right? So I looked for the keywords and I started looking through the keywords, and I found the keyword Block Inc., right? That's familiar, right? Block Inc. is the parent company of Square. So I went and I did my researching, and it turns out, yeah, that's their payment processor. So I'm going to attach and I'm going to share ways we can contact both Block Inc. and Square. So we want to hit both of them so they can't ignore us, right? But there is a process to report stuff like that. And I don't know if they just didn't think we'd find it out. But yeah, bitch, we found it out. So I'm going to share how y'all can report. Stop reporting to Give, Send, Go. They don't give a fuck. They supported Kyle Rittenhouse, the January 6th rioters. That is literally what they do. That platform thrives off hate. So we don't want to hit them. We want to hit the money. And see, Give, Send, Go is a for-profit company, and they pretty much can do what they want to do. But when it comes to banking and payment processing in this country, we do actually have laws and regulations surrounding that. So any type of bank or payment processor has to have a clear-cut policy that prevents them from funding hateful things like that. So yes, Block and Square both have policies that prohibit the use of their platform for glorifying or amplifying or profiting off of harassment, illegal activities, racism, and yes, hate speech. So she has violated their policy by even having that campaign. I'm telling y'all, stop playing with black women in business and stop playing with black women in tech, because I know good and fucking well y'all didn't think we were going to look into that.
Alright, find the dot fans. As we close, let's take a breath and reflect on what this moment means to us. One afternoon, a 5-year-old boy heard a word that should never be placed on a child's shoulder. A mother, Sheila, admitted to use this word, and in seconds a camera captured it. From here, the internet did what often does: it spread, it magnified, it divided. It raised money for both sides of the story. But let's step back. Beyond the debate and the headlines, this is really about three things: words, consequence, and choices. What matter? Because once spoken, they did just vanish. They echo in the heart of those who hear them. Consequence matter because when our private action go public, they can reshape life in ways we don't expect. And choice matter because in that moment, Each of us get to decide. Do we contribute to the healing or do we add to the harm? That clip gave others the chance to see, to question, to respond. In this age, accountability does not comes from a courtroom. It comes from a lens. And that's sometimes every one of us should remember. The next time we are out in public, speak or acting in a way that may carry weight. So what's the take home from this? We cannot change what happened on that playing ground, but we can learn from it. Let's teach children to value kindness. Let's encourage adults to mold patience. Even in the 8th moment, let's use our platform, whether big or small, to build bridge instead of barrier. Because at the end of the day, isn't like this just reflects one person's choice. They shine a mirror back to us all. What do we want to see when the mirror is held? To everyone watching, carrying this story not as a foil for division, but as a chance to practice empathy, accountability in your own life. That's how we can turn a painful moment into a teaching moment for our community. Advice: think before you speak. Words can carry harms far beyond the moment. Center the child. The youngest and the most vulnerable should always be protected first. Response with empathy, not just outrage. Accountability is important, but healing matters too. Use technology wise. Phone, social media can expose truth, but we must handle that power responsibly. Credit goes to the man that films that incident at the park, and to many stitches and creators who create the video and brought it forward. We welcome you and we say thank you to you. Without your work, this conversation would not have reached us today. Thanks.